My name is Joshua Appleman. Today, I will be examining emotional intelligence and simulation engineering. I will be discussing my results for my emotional intelligence assessment. We'll discuss growth strategies for improving the weakest of those scores, as I am currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in simulation engineering. And I am also currently in my fourth week of psychology of play. This is a topic that is very important to me personally. So let's get into it. To begin, you may be wondering, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is our personal competency level at identifying, recognizing, understanding, regulating, and influencing our emotions and the emotions of others. You may also be wondering, what is simulation engineering? To put it very simply, simulation engineering consists of applying real world known data toward the generation of 3D models or simulations for purposes of research and testing. Typically, this is done in cases where creating a full scale prototype would not be cost effective or under conditions that cannot be replicated easily. Examples would be aerospace. In order to test shuttles, you don't fire them into space first. You would utilize simulation engineering to test how these vessels hold up against all of the forces that they will encounter, from gravity to velocity, even space itself. Since we can't bring space to us and we can't go to space to do the testing, we simulate it based on what we already know about it and what we've learned through simulation engineering. Now that we have a better understanding of both emotional intelligence and simulation engineering, we can start to compare and contrast, find similarities, overlaps, and there is a significant amount of overlap in the concepts and applications of both. The first example would be digital twins. In simulation engineering, digital twins are merely a digital representation or copy of something. It could be a existing item, a prototype, a theory. That digital twin would be based on known information. It could range from statue to a building to a celestial body, an anomaly, large man-made objects, people even. As you'll notice throughout my presentation, I have injected myself directly into it. Same can be said of emotional intelligence, where we are constantly receiving information and reconciling that with reality and the version of it that we maintain in our minds, our biases, our labels, our perspectives. There's a constant data comparison and reconciliation that we go through, continuously adjusting our mental twin, if you will, to the reality. This process creates a feedback loop, which is something that is also critical to success in simulation engineering. This can be applied to machine learning, development of AI, simulation performance improvement by taking the known data and creating a working model and simulation, and then introducing a developing AI to that simulation or model. We can collect additional data through research and testing. Can also use that simulation or model to train the AI to help it learn and develop. From this raw data that we're collecting, we can improve both. We can develop the AI through experience and controlled environments. We can also use the data collected by the AI to improve the simulation itself, to strengthen the results. This perpetual cycle can be repeated in future iterations, advancing the efficiency and effectiveness of both. Now that we know how emotional intelligence and simulation are related conceptually, let's explore the real time results of both high emotional intelligence and low emotional intelligence in the field of simulation engineering. Although these are specific to simulation engineering, they are typically universal. For every benefit of high emotional intelligence, you will have a inverse disadvantage from low emotional intelligence. For A stronger team collaboration and trust on the high side. We find team dysfunction and resentment on the low. For effective conflict resolution on the high side, we have a toxic work environment on the low. Improve creativity and innovation for high performing emotional intelligent engineers. We find creative and innovative stagnation for those suffering from low EI. With high, we have improved adaptability and resilience, more of a growth mindset. Setbacks fuel learning rather than frustration. We're constantly learning, even from mistakes and failures. And with the low emotional intelligence, we have the inability to adapt and persevere. Setbacks lead to frustration, burnout, even turnover. Again, while these are geared specifically to simulation engineering, they cross multiple disciplines and career fields. These are typical in any team-driven work environment dependent on collaboration. Now let's look at my results. I will say I am very pleased with my results. Overall average was a 95 on a scale of 100. Highest were self-awareness and self-motivation. No surprise. Self-regulation was slightly lower, which I can see. Accurate. Social skills are 94, still respectable, but room for improvement. And empathy was my lowest score. I will examine benefits from my two highest scores and disadvantages of my lowest. For self awareness, a high score will allow me to identify my personal bias, self correct errors, recognize signs of stress early, provide realistic timelines for deliverables by holding myself accountable. I will have faster decision making and problem solving skills, improved learning and development, and better collaboration and communication overall. I scored just as high on self motivation, credited largely to self determination theory. I place incredible value on autonomy, confidence, and connection. I have a growth mindset, hold myself accountable, tracking progress and deadlines for all deliverables. I have decent amount of confidence. I've typically been recognized and seen career and professional growth for my achievements and work ethic. On a separate assessment, I scored a 5 out of 5 for grit. I'm more inclined to explore unconventional options and work outside of my comfort zone, push and challenge myself routinely. Unfortunately, empathy was my lowest score. This can lead to misunderstandings and unresolved conflicts, reduced trust, collaboration, and knowledge share, poor active listening, feeling unappreciated, unrecognized, and disrespected. Of course, burnout and turnover, a possible outcome, with lower team morale and cohesion, and decreased motivation that can lead to disengagement. Strategies or action plans to strengthen empathy include working on active listening, being mindful, prioritizing others, also participating in group breakouts with no judgment, reminding myself to respond versus react, and then also engaging in mentorship, finding a mentor, an example to model myself after. Active participation in peer shadowing and review, collecting that data and reconciling my mental twins with reality, adjusting as necessary. In conclusion, I have summarized the benefits of higher EI based on the 5 categories. This is just a review of things that we've already covered throughout the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did, learning more about my field, emotional intelligence, how the two correlate. Going into a technical field like simulation engineering, I can easily see how an emphasis was placed on technical skill and knowledge, and emotional intelligence was overlooked as a nice to have soft skill rather than a must have. With the science behind how emotional intelligence directly affects productivity, team cohesion, collaboration, communication, consistency, cost prevention, emphasis on technical skill and knowledge has taken a back seat to those who demonstrate a higher level of emotional intelligence. For anyone anticipating entering the competitive job market in the next 2 years, I encourage you to take an assessment, find out where you stand on each of the 5 categories, and begin working on them now to make yourself a more appealing candidate for when the time comes. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.